Hey folks, it's Shane with ESEE Knives and Reynolds Adventure and Training, and today we're going to drop a little ESEE tech tip video on what to do when you get your brand new ESEE knife and the sheath is really tight. Let's talk about first what knives we generally see with really tight sheaths from the factory, and people oftentimes have a hard time getting the knives out of the sheath. Normally it's our smaller knives like the Kangaroo, the Azula. On occasion we might see the Azula 2 with some issues. Rarely do we see anything larger than the 3. So here's one of the problems that people get is they get this new knife and they're not familiar with the process on how to get it out. Before we talk about that, we're going to talk about a few things that we don't want to see you do. Number one, people will try to get this Kangaroo out of the sheath and it's really hard. So sometimes they will choke up on that sheath and that's going to put that finger right there at risk. We'd rather not see you make an involuntary donation to the blood bank in doing this. So make sure that that finger is well behind this first hole in the sheath. And then what we're going to do is push with our thumb and pull with our fingers. It's kind of an unnatural motion, but you will see pushing and pulling. Another problem we'll see is people will take and they'll pull, and then when it comes out, they're trying to be controlled with it. They pull it out and they wind up trying to put it back together and it winds up going into their hand. Again, an involuntary donation to the blood bank we don't want to see you make. So how do you fix it? It's really tight. The knife's hard to get out. Here's my solution. You can take a screwdriver, slide it through the hole right there, put that in your fingers, and now what I can do is I can kind of practice this unnatural motion of pushing and pulling. And what you'll see is I'm pushing with my thumb and pulling with my fingers, and I can work this back and forth a few times. Something else I can do is I can drop a small amount of lube on the inside of this. Doesn't really matter what it is. If you look down inside there, and I'll do a close-up of this, in all of our sheaths the retention comes with these nubs down towards the bottom. You know, with some knives that have scales on them, you might even see a black mark left on the scales. Putting a little bit of lube on those nubs will go a long way. A little bit of lube will help ease that process, and I'm going to work this in. So kind of the basis of our company, we started with law enforcement and military sales, and in a lot of places people like to carry tip up. The good news is that while the sheath, it may be really tight to start with, over time it's going to have very good retention throughout the life cycle of the sheath. So that's why we have them so tight to begin with, and they do break in. Those nubs compress. If for whatever reason you're having a very hard time getting this out and you have to do something different, here's another solution we can talk about. Again, using the screwdriver to kind of ease that knife out in a controlled fashion. We're going to pull the knife out, we're going to stow it safely. You can take an emery, like a nail file, an emery board, or a small flat file, something kind of thin right there, and I can look down on the inside of this sheath, and I'm going to take off a very slight amount of material off those nubs. And by slight, I mean microscopic almost. I don't want this to be easy. I want it to be easier. I still want it to be tight. I still want it to be secure. I don't want this knife to just be able to pop in and out with ease. Again, it will break in over time. This is almost always occurring when the knives are new and used very, very little. So once we take off a very small amount, you'll test fit. Hopefully it's easier. Again, try a little bit of lube on there. That may help it. So whether it's WD-40 or Tri-Flow or whatever kind of chain lubricant you have, that might help. Even gun lube will work. Mineral oil, cooking oil, doesn't really matter. So what I would prefer to see you do is, rather than taking material off, is to work this thing over time and let that break in, and it will get easier. I know it's frustrating to start with. You got this new knife, you have a hard time using it, but Throughout the long haul in the life cycle of the knife, the sheath and the retention should last a very long time, and you shouldn't have to worry about a knife that's going to rattle or one you're going to lose if you carry it in a tip-up fashion. So, if you have further questions, you can email me directly, shane@eseeknives.com, or you can shoot me a DM on Facebook or Instagram through my personal page or the ESEE page. I'll be happy to take a call to work with you to answer any further questions you might have. We want to see you use your new ESEE knife safely, efficiently, and for a very, very long time. If you like what you see or have further questions or you need some other tech tip or help, feel free to drop that in the comments down below. Thanks, guys.